So guys, Trump had to have a big win in this debate, okay? And at best, it's a tie because he wasn't a maniac, right? Because we got used to the Trump standard, which is like him constantly punching himself in the face at the speed of a tornado, right? And so this time he'd every once in a while punch himself in the face instead of doing it really rapidly while spinning around. So, but even if it were a tie, which it wasn't, that Trump's down 8 points nationally, and there's very little time left before the election, about 10 days left before the election. This ain't gonna do it, but it wasn't a tie. I mean, if you're sitting at home, even if you're a Trump supporter, how do you not get embarrassed by those lines? When he says he knows wind better than Biden, and Biden is right. Trump once said the windmills cause cancer. The guy's a lunatic. He says he plants 1 trillion trees. He hasn't planted one. He said that he's doing great on coronavirus goggles. I don't know what he's talking about. Nobody knows what he's talking about. He said Biden's selling sheets and pillows. I've never heard that in my life. What are you doing? He's like, the Russians gave him $3.5 million. I mean, I know, and so did a Nigerian prince who had to get his money out of the country. I mean, as long as we're making things up, why not? But of course, 2 classic lines were, no one has been better to African Americans than Donald Trump, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. So, Biden got in all that trouble when he said, if you're black, or if you vote for Trump, you can't be black or something along those lines. But if you're a black supporter of Donald Trump, how do you not get embarrassed when he says, maybe with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln? And then later he went on to say, I'm the least racist person in this room. He said it to an African-American moderator. I mean, what do you do with this guy? What do you do with a clown this large? So did Donald Trump lose the debate? Of course he lost the debate. Yeah. How can a guy like that ever win a debate? So let me get your guys' reaction. Ben, you go first.
Yeah, here's the thing. The main thing I think is that the emperor is finally being seen as naked, right? I think his ridiculousness, his entire shtick that he was able to get away with in 2016 has finally run its course. Anyone who has a modicum of sincerity in them saw a disaster tonight. It was a complete and total collapse of Donald Trump. You remove the novelty of his ignorance, right? His different approach and all the different ways they try to categorize him as not being a politician, and all these things were novel in 2016. It has run its course, and we're on this side of 220,000 people being dead because of his decisions. And so now he's doing the same exact thing over again, and it's just not hitting the same notes. And that's being kind. Joe Biden came out for blood. He came out swinging uppercut after uppercut, haymaker after haymaker, and they landed. Now everyone got a little fatigued. Joe Biden got fatigued. I got fatigued somewhere around 1 hour and 15 minutes, and it went downhill just a little bit for him, but not enough to take away from how big of an opening Joe Biden had. I think if anybody gave up on Donald Trump, it happened in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, Ben, you're 100% correct. I totally agree with your assessment. I think that Biden's performance was incredibly strong throughout the debate. Toward the end, I agree. He was fumbling just a little bit, but not enough to, give Donald Trump the edge in this debate. Trump was fumbling, bumbling. He looked like a clown. And look, I'm saying this specifically regarding like his performance and inability to respond to the very specific examples that Joe Biden provided in regard to Donald Trump's failures in his first term. That's what I wanted to see more of during the debate between Kamala Harris and Mike Pence. And I really did think that Kamala Harris was gonna deliver. But in this debate, luckily we did see Joe Biden show up ready to fight, ready with actual specific examples. There were a few moments that certainly didn't please me with either one of the candidates, especially when it came to environmental policy and foreign policy. I think they're both awful when it comes to those two issues. But still, in terms of optics, in terms of what I think most American voters see and care about, Biden unquestionably won this debate. There's no question.
Yeah, and actually, it wasn't just that Trump was a clown, and I've got more examples of that. But it was that Biden was strong. He punched back really effectively on the tax. He said, "What are you hiding? Why don't you just tell me, what are you hiding? And that's a great question. The Chinese bank account, what are you hiding? He did his classic Biden things too, all throughout the debate. Come on. And he hit him with a malarkey or two. But he also had good substantive points, like when they were talking about race, he brought up Central Park 5. Finally a Democrat does it, right? It took 5 long years for them to bring up Central Park 5. Here's 5 minority kids who were proven innocent, and Trump thought they should be killed anyway. I mean, that's so outrageous. When people ask, what has he done that's racist? To me, that's one of the top things on the list. He said, and when he said they should, still be punished in that extreme way. He said, well, what were they doing in Central Park? They were probably up to no good anyway. Oh my God, I mean, it's the classic racist line. I don't know, they're minorities. They must have been up to no good anyway. Let's just kill them. It's unreal, right? So, and then you get to the clownish stuff. When he says, they say therapeutics, I took therapeutics. They say it's not I think it might be a cure. You think it might be a cure? Therapeutics is totally different than a cure. You're in charge during coronavirus. Well, no wonder we lead the world in number of deaths, because you don't even know the difference between a therapeutic and a cure. And then he says, I might be immune. That's what some say. No, nobody says that. Nobody says you're immune. You're in much better shape now. You're far less likely to get it, but you're not immune. No doctor actually says that. And he kept saying, as he was talking about coronavirus, I don't know. You should know. We've had the pandemic now for 10 long months. 220,000 people are dead, and you're still on a national debate stage talking about how I don't know what happened. Jesus Christ. And then the weird cryptic reference, the nonstop lies about Biden's record. Well, Biden's got plenty of things wrong with his record, and we've talked about it. And on the rare times that he's right, so when he said, hey, you attacked Social Security, that's true. Biden did in some of his speeches, and we pointed that out earlier. But that's a very rare situation where Trump was right. More often than not, he's like, and then there was the guy who was a business guy, and he said, the big man, and I think you're the big man, I think. Nobody knows what you're talking about. And you just sound like a guy calling him, I think you're the big man. That almost sounds positive. And I mean, I can go all night, because he went for an hour and a half of total rubbish. I don't know why I used the word rubbish. What am I, English all of a sudden? Anyway, and I want to go to you, and then I want to give you one last really important, terrible line from Trump. Go ahead.
It sounds like you've been watching Peppa Pig. I thought you said big. Go ahead, Peppa.
No, I just wanted to say, the weakest moments for Biden were when he was attacked from the left. I mean, obviously it's fake leftism from Trump, right? Mostly on foreign policy and mostly foreign policy. Imagine if you had a real leftist on that stage. Like obviously I'm talking about a hypothetical here, but someone who would respond to a $15 an hour minimum wage with, no, you know what, $15 an hour, not enough. Instead of subsidizing fossil fuel companies, why don't we subsidize actual small businesses that can't afford a $20 or $25 an hour minimum wage to ensure that they pay their employees at least that much. That is the minimum. Imagine how popular that kind of messaging would be. Like I know that I'm sharing a hypothetical here, but the weakest moments for Biden, which were, to be fair, there were a few compared to Trump. I mean, Trump was littered with weak moments. Those weak moments could have easily been aided with leftist ideology that is overwhelmingly appealing to the vast majority of Americans who are workers, who know what it's like to make $7.25 an hour, who know what it's like to be laid off right now, who know what it's like to be evicted or pushed out of their rent-controlled apartments. So these disgusting, greedy real estate developers can knock those buildings down so they can construct these ridiculous luxury apartments and condominiums. I just think about how even now, I know that nationally speaking, in the national polls, Biden is doing well. But in some of these swing states, in some of these battleground states, the election is a toss-up. And that worries me. I would argue that it wouldn't be that case if Biden had pivoted more toward a leftist message that focuses primarily on working Americans as opposed to his donors. But with that said, I think Biden did really well tonight. I think that Trump did not prepare, and it certainly showed. And he embarrassed himself over and over and over again, and I love to see it.
Yeah, and look, I debate a little differently than Democrats do, okay? But when, I'll give Joe Biden credit, when he said, yeah, I'm gonna raise the minimum wage to $15, that's a good moment because that you just told millions upon millions of Americans that you're gonna raise their wages. For some of them, you're gonna double their wages. It's such a layup. The Democratic Party fought Bernie Sanders tooth and nail for decades on this issue, right? And finally Sanders won, and now we're at a point where Biden is championing it. But what I would have done with Trump is, I would have said, look, you just said you're for lower wages. You just said you're against a $15 minimum wage. So how low do you want the wages to be? How much money do you want to take away from the average American? Just explain it, because you say you're against the minimum wage. You don't want to pay people more. I know you want all the money to go to the businesses and your donors, but how low do you want their wages to be? And just keep pounding him. How low do you want their wages to be? How low do you want their wages to be? And he can't possibly answer that, he's a fool. But again, I'm with everyone else here. Biden, within the context of what normally goes on in a debate, did great. Let me say one last thing about Trump's lines, because I thought this one was, I mean, there was two that were amazing. When he said, you had 8 years to do something about healthcare, you didn't do anything. Obamacare is a mess. Wait a minute, did he not do anything or did he do Obamacare? You can't blame him for Obamacare and then say you didn't do anything for 8 years. The one thing they're known for is Obamacare, right? He just has no attachment to reality or facts. And then the line that I thought was even more comical is, on coronavirus, he said, I take full responsibility. It was China's fault. And we was back-to-back sentences. It was amazing.
The thing that stood out the most to me about Donald Trump's delivery tonight was that his normal lies didn't land as good as they used to land, right? I don't think any of them landed. Even when he was trying to outflank Joe Biden from the left, talking about wars and endless wars, that didn't really land. It was, I don't know if it's the medication he's on, because what he's usually able to do is to put on a performance enough to make his lies stick with an impactful force that he just didn't have tonight. And so I'm wondering how it really resonated with his supporters, because if they were looking for the same showmanship that they normally get, and by showmanship, I mean clown show, they didn't get that tonight. And I think they had to feel like they came away defeated and deflated because Trump just could not deliver in a way. Of course, all of it is lies, but that's what he's been built on. That's what he's built everything around. And so I think all of it really came crashing down around him tonight.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.